How's everybody doing today? I'm Matt Mods, and this is Who Is on the Wire, headed into Week 7 of the 2024 fantasy football season. This week is actually looking pretty good, I could say. I think there's a lot of decent options at running back and wide receiver. We're finally getting to see a little bit of value. Let's jump right into it. But first off, here's a recap of last week. I went 3-0 in my 3 main fantasy leagues. We are now 15-3 on the season. Between my 3 leagues combined, we are 6-0 in one, 5-1 in another, and 4-2 in the third. And this is why I'm making these videos, because do you want to win? I showed you my draft strategy. I'm going over the waiver wire with you every week in my leagues. Maybe you want to listen, maybe you want to listen. We're 15-3 through 3 weeks. Do you like winning? I like winning, and that's why we win. Broke 140 points in my 1 league with a 0 from Marvin Harrison. Shout out Joe Mixon for coming back from injury and picking up right where he left off in week 1. Let's get into it. This is Who Is on the Wire, headed into week number 7. First, we're going to start off with quarterbacks. Nothing too crazy to see here. I did shout out Bo Nix last week as a potential ad, and he did have 21 points this week. Bo Nix has broke 19 points in 3 of the last 4 weeks. You can pick Bo Nix up if you need somebody to start on a bye week. A lot of people on buys coming up. I would also maybe take a look at Drake May here. First career start, 19 points, 3 touchdowns, 2 turnovers. He did run for 40 yards, which is a bonus. We like quarterbacks who can run the ball. So yeah, Drake May, Bo Nix. You have Old Reliable, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. You got options at quarterback. I'm not too worried about you at quarterback. Let's see what else we got here. First off, we have D'Ernest Johnson. If Travis Etienne misses time, which it looks like he might, D'Ernest Johnson should be in line to split carries with Tank Bigsby. Obviously, Tank Bigsby will be the number 1 in that scenario. But D'Ernest Johnson, solid number 2. They're going to split the ball. It's still going to be a pretty even split, if you ask me. I don't think Tank Bigsby is going to be a workhorse if Travis Etienne misses time. But add D'Ernest Johnson, especially if Etienne's injury caused him to miss even more time, it should be a solid move here. All right, next person we want to look at, obviously, Isaac Guerendo on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, again, this is if George Mason's missing time, which he might not. We still don't know the severity yet. We don't know if George Mason's going to play or not. Add whoever's starting for the San Francisco 49ers at running back. Doesn't matter if Christian McCaffrey's back or not. Whoever starts there is going to do well. It's the system, right? Christian McCaffrey is not that good. Is that what we're saying? No. Add Isaac Guerendo. 99 yards, 10 carries for 99 yards. We saw that big run where he looked like he was running like he pooped his pants. He said not to decrease his speed. He knew what he was doing. Add Isaac Guerendo, though, as a handcuff if Jordan Mason can't play. Next on this list, we want to take a look at Kamani Vidal on the Los Angeles Chargers. Now we know Gus Bus, is on IR. He's going to miss some time. Kamani Vidal is stepping in as the number 2 behind J.K. Dobbins, and he had a pretty good first showing his rookie year. First game of the season, he had about a 25% snap share only, but 4 carries for 11 yards, 2 catches for 40 yards, and a touchdown. So it's 6 touches for 50 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, that might only go up. They don't want to run J.K. Dobbins into the ground with his injury history. Kamani Vidal, I think, might be one of the better ads at running back this week. He should steadily get more touches over the next few weeks until Gus Edwards can return from injury, which who knows when that even may be. And now this one kind of goes without saying after last week, but Sean Tucker on Tampa Bay. The number 1 running back in week 6. 14 carries for 136 and a touchdown, 3 catches for 56 and a touchdown, 34 fantasy points last week. Now, why wouldn't you add him? Has Rachaad White looked very good? This year? I don't think Rachaad White has looked great. You know who has looked good? Bucky Irving has looked good this season. And in his only game with any opportunity at all, Sean Tucker has looked good this year. Rachaad White's time is coming to an end, I think, and they have a pretty easy strength of schedule going forward for the remainder of the season. After this week, after Baltimore, their strength of schedule for the rest of the season is so easy, especially for this running game. If Sean Tucker is afforded more of an opportunity, he should be great. He's more of a bench stash, purely based on 1 week of performance, but that was a good week. And finally, at the running backs, I just want to highlight Dameon Pierce. Along with Joe Mixon returning from injury, Dameon Pierce also returned from injury this week. And he had 8 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Joe Mixon had 13 carries. Dameon Pierce had 8. Now, they did have a pretty large lead, and Joe Mixon himself was returning from injury. I think Joe Mixon is going to continue being the workhorse there, but if Dameon Pierce can keep performing like this, I think he'll get more of an opportunity. I don't think it will be a 13-8 split every week. Again, I think Mixon will get a lot more carries than Pierce going forward, but Dameon Pierce is worth a hold, worth an add, especially if Joe Mixon gets hurt again and Dameon Pierce is the only guy left here. I own Joe Mixon. I might stash Dameon Pierce away as a handcuff, just in case. All right, we're moving on to wide receivers. For a third time in the last 4 weeks, I'm saying add Demario Douglas. I know I haven't added Demario Douglas. I might add him, actually. I have Keon Coleman. Is it time to give up on Keon Coleman? But the fact that Demario Douglas is only rostered in 21% of leagues, when he's had 9 targets in 3 of the last 4 weeks, 21 points this week. I think this 21 is finally going to get people to open their eyes, but at least 6 catches, at least 9 targets in 3 of the last 4 weeks. Demario Douglas just needs to be owned at this point, especially with the new quarterback in. Drake May didn't look bad. Drake May is going to throw it, especially with their running back situation, Ramondre and Antonio Gibson. They're going to pass the ball. Gabe Davis. I've been a Gabe Davis hater forever. He's too boomer bust. He's not that great. I mean, even this season, he finally had 1 big week. Again, so when someone puts up a 20-point week, everyone wants to add them all of a sudden. But Gabe Davis does have 40% of the red zone targets for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, somebody who's getting 40% of the red zone targets, I like that. They're trying to get it to him in the end zone. He's a big guy. That's what they're going to do. I mean, do I love him? Am I going to add him? No. Again, I'm a Gabe Davis hater, but he's getting the targets. He's getting the snaps. He's on the field. I mean, he's worth an add and hold and bye-week emergency start, potentially. Quick shout out to DeAndre Hopkins. He's the number 1 wide receiver in Tennessee. They can't get the ball to Calvin Ridley for some reason, and D-Hop has been okay. He's been okay. 6 targets, 4 targets, 7. 1 touchdown. I wouldn't add it. He interests me, but I'm not going to add him myself, but he's worth looking at. Another guy who returned from injury, Devon Vele. We shouted him out. Headed into week 2. He had a big first week. And again, first came back, 4 catches for 78 yards, 12 fantasy points. In Vele's 2 healthy games, he only has a 55% snap share, but he's gotten 21% of the team's targets. So again, it's utilization. He's not on the field a lot, but when he is on the field, they are dumping the ball to him. And he's had 12 points in 2 games. If he could keep this up, they're playing Carolina soon. Baltimore's pass defense is all right. He has opportunity. Their schedule is kind of easy going forward for the rest of the year. So I would add Devon Vele ahead of DeAndre Hopkins, who I just mentioned. And then finally, another injury addition, add Greg Dortch, just in case Marvin Harrison Jr. can't play. Michael Wilson is probably already owned in your league. Greg Dortch has shown flashes. Week 1, he looked good. He still gets targets. He doesn't put up too many points. But if Marvin Harrison Jr. is out, Greg Dortch should get a lot more looks, and I think he could be a viable flex starter, especially if you're a Marvin Harrison Jr. owner and you want to handcuff your wide receiver. You might want to add Greg Dortch right about now. The human Dortch, baby. And then one more guy, actually, Noah Brown, actually seems to be getting a nice little rapport down with Jaden Daniels. Last week had a 21% target share, which was the highest on the team. 8 targets, 4 catches for 58 yards. He's been steady, at least 3 catches every week, at least 26 yards every week. No touchdowns or anything, but it's all increasing, Up from 3 targets to 4 targets to 8 targets. 3 catches at first game with 4 targets. I think they have a nice little rapport going. They're playing Carolina next week. Chicago's a good defense. Actually, they're playing some good defensives coming up, but I would maybe just stash Noah Brown if you're a little desperate for wide receiver help. Tight end, we're going to look at him. We're going to pass him by. Add Hunter Henry, I guess. We talked about Drake May is going to throw the ball. Hunter Henry had 3 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown last week. Hunter Henry will get his, and then he won't get anything at all. I think tight ends are finally starting to settle down. There's not much to see here. I mean, Jonnu Smith, Chig Okonkwo. I'm not looking at any of the Chargers guys. Don't worry about any of the tight ends this week. Maybe Noah Gray, actually, but he didn't even do that well last week. 0.6% owned. The tight end carousel is coming to a stop. And that's who's on the wire heading into week number 7. A very interesting week. A lot of injuries. A lot of intrigue. I'm curious to see where it goes. There's more players I like. I can't get to everybody today. I'm trying to keep these short and sweet. We're going to take one look at my main league team here again. We're projected over 140 this week. We got to keep the ball rolling. We're 4-2. We're 6-0 in my other league. We're 5-1 in another league. I'm Matt Mods. This is King of the Hill Sports. That's who's on the wire, and we are on the way to week number 7. Signing out.